Hello and welcome to the MoBros Show, where I, Tip Mosley, pastor at Fellowship Baptist Church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, will sit and discuss topics of life, ministry, and theology with my brother, J.P. Mosley, who is a professor and minister at Heidelberg Theological Seminary in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. On today's episode, JP and I are back from a short hiatus to continue our study on idioms and phrases found in Scripture. For today, we are in the book of Daniel to discuss the phrase, "The writing is on the wall."
Coach pitch. Simeon was playing coach pitch, and then Judah was playing just a couple of steps above that, where it was his own teammates or the other team's team pitching at him, which is scary. But they had a good time. It was their first time playing baseball. Simeon ended up playing just about every position. I don't know if he did shortstop or second. I know he did third, first, catcher, pitcher. Well, he played at the pitcher's position. And then I think he did right and left field. So I don't think he did center field either. But he's not really built for a center fielder. And then he batted. He was pretty good at batting, kind of has a batting stance of Babe Ruth. Even points to where he's hitting it. And kind of.
No, he does not.
No, he didn't. And then Judah played a lot of outfield and would come in and do second base occasionally. And then because it's player pitch, I think really in that you're lucky if you hit the ball. It's especially if it's your first time coming up playing baseball. That's just. People get walked the majority of the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You sent me videos, and it's funny watching him at the plate. He doesn't take his eye off the pitcher. It's like he'll watch the ball come in, but he doesn't take practice swings, doesn't step out of the box. He just stands there still as can be, just staring down the pitcher. That's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go against that.
His team did get second place overall in their county, whatever it was.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. Marianne actually starts up T-ball here pretty soon.
Oh, fun. Eben doesn't want to play baseball. Ewan wants to play baseball. We're going to get him in spring baseball next year.
Yeah.
And Eben's going to be playing soccer in the next couple of weeks. Eden's doing a cheer camp. But I'm still having a hard time coming back from vacation Bible school. It's like I used to have everything ready, and I was like, I'm always weeks ahead of myself. But vacation Bible school was it felt like 4 events in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had, and then we always throw a big community thing for the 4th of July. And so that was a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, I guess, because I was younger. I don't remember vacation Bible school being so taxing, so exhausting.
I haven't been in one or done one in 18 years. Kind of nice. Well, it's even the ones that even if I did do it, it wouldn't be like what it was when you and I were growing up, where all of a sudden it's some kind of spectacle. In the churches that I'm in, it's more an actual Bible school. And it lasts for 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh,
Now, some of them have reduced it to 2 or 1, but in the history of the churches that I'm in, the church denomination I'm in, which is a German immigrant church, what they called Vacation Bible School was actually it was one of two. When they started doing it, it was to help teach the kids German.
Oh.
And so it was a summer month where they were studying German, the German language.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their services were still in German. And yet when they would go to school during the week, everything was in English. And so, and that changed. And now some of the churches are still trying to figure out why in the world they're doing, a 3-week program for VBS. And you want to talk about 1 week or just a few days being taxing. Those pastors that I know that are doing it for 3 weeks, but it's a summertime, and our churches normally, Bible studies, regular Bible studies get put on hold. Sunday school classes get put on hold.
Oh, okay. So it kind of balances the scales.
It does a little bit. Yeah. We have our big not denomination, but what's called our classes, which is the regional churches. Two of our classes have a camp together. One classes has their own out east, another one has their own out west, and then we have one in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And so that's actually that's coming up next week, and I'm giving a lecture on Micah 6 through 8 to the senior high kids. And I'm the first one to go, and it's fun. It's a week-long thing. You get there on Monday, you leave on Friday, and so that takes. I mean, for those of us, for the pastors that are there, you then have to turn around and preach again that Sunday.
Yeah,
and so you want to make sure you have a sermon ready to go before you have to go off to camp.
Right.
And that's. That would be the case with Vacation Bible School. Is you're going to want to know that you've got some sermons ready to go before you start doing, this other project kind of thing.
And here I am moaning and groaning about 4 days out of the week.
Yeah.
No, I was
Germans do things a little harder.
I was prepared for the Sunday, but I kind of wish now that I had been prepared further than that. I'm still catching myself trying to catch up. Trying to catch up. I just said that sentence.
Yes, you did. And what's the age group that y'all have for VBS?
We did pre-K through 5th grade.
And are they all doing the same thing?
Not at the same time, but yes, it's like a rotation.
No. What I mean is it kind of like the same theme?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would have is just a rotation of 6 different themes, and the kids wouldn't know it. The kids wouldn't know that. Oh, we did that 6 years ago, because you have 6 Vacation Bible School things.
Yeah.
And every 6, it'll pop up again every 6 years.
Right. That makes sense.
That way, for your planning, everything's planned out, everything's mapped out. It's in a binder, it's in a digital file. You did it 6 years ago.
Right.
Now I just gave the trick to the trade, but but the thing is you don't reinvent the wheel. I mean, that's
no.
I think too many people get in trouble when it comes to pastoral ministry when they think they have to sit down and come up with something new. When you're already buying the curriculum. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. With the children's ministry, we have a curriculum that we buy every year, and it comes with a free VBS. So that's cool. What we did. Yeah. So that's cool. All of it was planned out per age group.
That's cool.
And they even had stuff for like outdoor games and snacks. So you didn't have to come up with anything on your own.
Yeah.
You still have to get all
the stuff.
Well, yeah. You got to collect all the stuff. We did decorations and stuff. And this was the first time that this church has done a VBS in 5 years.
Mm.
And we were averaging 30 kids for the course of the 4 nights. Our least number was the last night, but I think it's because we did on a Saturday, and we probably should have done like a Tuesday through Friday and would have had the same number of kids, but we ended on a Saturday instead. But we also got 2 families that came to church that next Sunday and are still coming.
That's good. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Anything the church does needs to be outreach.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Anything. Well, I mean, you and I say it, and it sounds like it's obvious, but it's not obvious.
Duh.
Some people it's not obvious. I mean, some people want to have a picnic, and it's just for people in the church, and it's like, that's not what the church is. No, we're not supposed to be a closed group. Everything is supposed to be invite your neighbor, invite family members. All of it, every time it's supposed to be that way. But
even for like we'll do like for the men's stuff, we'll do like cookouts.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you invite your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
That guy that you've been trying to invite to church, invite him to this.
Mm-hmm.
Let that be the foot into the door. So we've been on a bit of a little hiatus here. You and I have not gotten together to record in
over a month.
I felt like it was longer.
It's been over a month.
It's been a good while now.
Yeah.
We've been sitting on Ecclesiastes for a while.
I know it was at least 3 weeks because that's how long I was on vacation.
Okay.
So I think we recorded the week before that, but not those 3 weeks or last week either.
Yeah. It's recorded, but it's not uploaded.
Right.
I can,
and I've got people saying waiting for this next one to come out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I told them it's coming.
Yeah.
We've been on vacation.
We've been busy.
Yeah. Come on.
All right. So it's episode 11 was May 13th. Was uploaded on May 13th. Yeah. So now I want to get into one that I think about quite often, especially if I'm listening to, my favorite group. You know who my favorite group is.
Yeah. What was that? Don't you like that K-pop band that about 8 or 9 of them in it? BK or something. I don't know. Is that your favorite group?
BTS, isn't that what they're called?
Oh, BTS.
BST? BTS? Hang on. Google is my friend.
Oh, no, I'm teasing you. Smashing Pumpkins.
No. Oh, well, yes, I enjoy it. But no, I was talking about my favorite girl group.
Oh, your favorite girl group?
Yeah. The only reason Beyonce even has a career, Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
Their second studio album that still featured 4 women on it.
Yeah.
Was called The Writings on the Wall.
Mm-hmm. You know, the funny thing is one of Beyonce's songs was the kind of like the hook for the song was everything you own is in a box to the left.
To the left, to the left.
And so Fran would have that playing in the car or whatever. We're going on a trip and that song would come on. I said, you better put it back in the house. Get that box. Take it back in the house. Put my stuff away.
I didn't even know that they had 4 members. I thought they had 3.
Yeah. Originally they had 4.
Well, I was, looking at a list of popular phrases there in the Bible, but that's one. The writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember. I know that it's in a Stevie Wonder song too, but it's in a lot of songs. There are a lot of songs with that title. There is a Destiny's Child album called The Writings on the Wall. I'm trying to find, wasn't there a James Bond song? Wasn't one of the James Bond songs wasn't there one? Huh?
That I don't know. I hate those intros with the songs.
What? That's what it's known for.
I know. I think they're the most annoying things about all of them. I mean, I get the whole spy genre and He's willing to do whatever it takes for his country. But
I thought you enjoyed those movies.
No, I like those movies. I hate the songs.
Oh,
I hate the songs. I can't stomach watching. I mean, it's just get to the movie.
Well, Weird Al did one.
Yeah.
For a Leslie Nielsen movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what it was called.
Look,
but it was funny.
When television shows, sitcoms got rid of the opening song number.
Yeah.
I was so excited. Like 24, my friend and I are watching the first season of 24.
Oh, going way back in time.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Just this is this hour of this day. It's the longest day of my life, and then go right into the action.
Yeah,
that's great. But see, that's I like that. I liked Mike Tyson's intro music. It was a minor key. It was a chord on a computer, and it just went, and that's all you heard.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and it was the eeriest thing. That was early on in his career. I don't know if he ended up changing it up, but it was so eerie. I like that.
So if I were to come to you and we're in a situation, we're talking about something, and I say the phrase, "Well, the writing is on the wall." Yeah. What does that mean?
It's done.
Okay.
It's over with. It's over with. We are finished. It's the equivalent of saying you need to go get your house in order.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always took it as it's obvious.
No.
Or something unpleasant or something unwelcoming is going to happen.
That's so the unpleasant, the unwelcome is, according to where you find it in the Bible, is the city's getting ready to be destroyed. And it's obvious the city's getting ready to be destroyed. If you just look over the wall, there's the army.
And we're talking about Daniel chapter 5.
Daniel chapter 5.
Now, I have a bit of a hard time just with the book of Daniel because, and I've shared this with you just like 10 minutes ago.
Wait, what is that thing? Is that a paintbrush?
Oh, yeah. I got to have things to.
Okay.
It's my little fidget thing.
Oh, okay.
I
don't have those.
I've been painting the youth room here. And so this is, no one's allowed to have this. No one's allowed to touch this brush. This is my brush because they disappear. And I clean this brush really well. And people have a hard time cleaning brushes sometimes.
Oh dear.
No one's allowed to touch that brush. It's my 2-inch angle brush.
I have no idea what any of that means, but okay.
All right. It is 2 inches in width and it is cut at an angle.
I'll take your word for it.
Got it. What were we talking? Oh yeah.
And Daniel 5. And
when I was in my undergrad, when I was in my undergrad, we had a class on Daniel and Revelation. It was a class that was separated but covered 2 books. The Daniel portion of it, I got a C in that class. But that was a failing grade for that institution. So I had to take the class over again. And so I'm just bitter about it, I guess.
Yeah.
I need to get over that.
You can go sit down on the couch and we can talk.
No, I mean, I don't mind doing that, but not for this situation. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the phrase, the writing is on the wall. And it is found in Daniel chapter 5, and I'm going to be okay with it. And what verse? Let's see. What verse is it? Do you know what verse it is?
Well, it starts in verse 5, but I think for context, you want to start reading up there in verse 1.
That's where the disembodied hand appears, is in verse 5.
Yeah.
In D&D, that's never mage hand. Anyway, All right. Chapter 5, verse 1. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem. And the king of his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. And then verse 5. Immediately, the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace opposite the lampstand. And the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, like that horse in Wizard of Oz, right?
Almost.
And his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way. Oh, he's going to pass out. And his knees knocked together. I've seen this happen at weddings.
Yeah.
The king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and what is that? So I get Chaldeans. It's Chaldeans.
Chaldeans are people from Babylon.
Please forgive me. Wait, he's putting them in succession with enchanters and astrologers.
Yeah.
Are they special?
No.
The king declared, I'm sorry, Chaldeans. The king declared to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple, which is royalty, right? Yep. And have a chain of gold around his neck and shall be a third ruler in the kingdom. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king the interpretation. I'm going to read this whole chapter, I believe.
It's a good chapter.
Yeah, this is... and it ends up being one person can read it, and that person is Daniel.
Well, let's get down to the part where Daniel translates it.
Okay.
And that is down there. I'll start reading verse 22.
Go ahead.
But you, his son Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. And you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron, wood and stone, but you do not see or hear or know. And the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand were sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the inscription that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanted. And then Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. And Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck and made a proclamation concerning that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain. And Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
Oh.
I actually used to work with a guy who's a Chaldean. There's another guy in the Bible, probably one of the most famous Gentile believers was Chaldean. Abraham. So
Chaldean. I will know how to pronounce that next time.
He's from Ur of Chaldea.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so there we have it. And
what an interesting sight to see.
It had to have been terrifying.
Well, obviously. I mean, he's about to faint.
Yeah, Adam's family, all of a sudden appears and starts writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the hand?
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Thing was the hand. Cousin
Thing
It
shows up and starts writing on the wall.
Yeah, Cousin It was the one that was like all hair. It was just long hair.
Oh,
yeah. Thing. Fingers of a human hand appear. It doesn't even. I don't know. It doesn't even really describe an entire hand. It's immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall. Yeah. So the king lost his color, or his color changed, is what it says in the ESV. He went white, probably, with all the blood rushing away from his brain.
He's about ready to pass out.
And he's about ready to pass out. Yeah, that's a scary thing to see.
Well, I mean, in order to understand the passage, in order to understand what's going on, let's make sure we're clear about what happened. You have, and which is, in other words, explain the story. You've got Belshazzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the one that had laid siege to Jerusalem and finally destroyed Jerusalem and the temple in 527, 526 BC. And he's the king that brought Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and others into Babylon. Now, what Daniel and his three friends were, they were actually among the first group of exiles, because there were three different groups of exiles. And so Daniel went a lot earlier than 520, he went a lot earlier. And as he's away, he is supposed to be being reindoctrinated.
Oh.
And he is supposed to be becoming a Chaldean. And it's not happening.
Right. He's not wavering in his faith.
Yeah. And so he goes before 586. He's been there for some time, and he's a boy. He's Judah's age, maybe between Judah and Stephen. So pre-teen, teen. And so are his three friends. And they go through all kinds of stuff. And one of the parts of the passage that we didn't read has to deal with Nebuchadnezzar's being humbled by God and becoming a Christian, becoming a believer. And that's one of the things Daniel is telling Belshazzar is, hey, your dad actually became one of my people. One like me. Well, Belshazzar, in his pride and his arrogance, like his dad, decides to go get all of the utensils and everything that his dad had brought from the temple of Jerusalem, and then use them as dishes for a banquet.
Right. Disrespectful.
It's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is why at this moment does God decide, okay, you know what, that's enough. And in fact, Dad had just called me just earlier this morning, was asking about the book of Amos, and why does Amos say for 3 and then for 4, transgressions, I'm going to do this. And I'm saying, essentially, the writing's on the wall. God's patience has a limit. And the cup is now filled, and his wrath is going to be pulled over. That's what Daniel 5 is about for Babylon. Because outside the city is Darius. Outside the city are the Medes and the Persians, and they're ready to destroy Babylon. Yeah. And what I've always found just wonderfully great about Daniel is Daniel and Joseph in the book of Genesis have got some very similar stories. The difference with Daniel is Nebuchadnezzar realizes he's got a bunch of yes men around him. And so when he starts having dreams like Pharaoh has dreams, he says, I want my magicians and my wise men to come and tell me and interpret the dream. Well, then just tell us the dream. You're going to need to tell me what my dream was. And then I'll know that you're for real. Well, nobody was able to do that except for Daniel.
Yeah.
And that's this place right here. Daniel was able to live somewhat of a retired life because of Nebuchadnezzar's love for him following those events until Belshazzar. And so they had to kind of get him out of retirement for this event. And it's always been the prophets' deal in life that they're the ones having to give bad news to pagan kings. And so what's the news? Well, we read it. It starts down there in 22. You're not like your dad. You didn't humble yourself. You've got pride and arrogance. Therefore, your time is up. Your kingdom is falling, and those that are going to do it are right outside the gates. And then we read the last couple of verses, and it happened that night.
See, that's what I find really chilling too, is that the writing being on the wall was that this is about to happen to you. Like, and it's not future event as most people would think of a prophecy being a future event that would happen years down the line. You're getting your last warning. This is it. Actually, the writing on the wall being, this is what is going to happen. And it, you can hate it as a warning, but obviously, Belshazzar didn't change his ways. He didn't have an opportunity to, because
even if he had the opportunity, there's been plenty of opportunity.
Right. You've had these opportunities to humble yourself.
That's the 3 for 4 from Amos.
Yeah.
You've had enough. Not only did creation point you to me, so did your dad and so did Daniel.
Yeah.
Time's up.
Yeah.
And so we could do 2 things with this now. We can see, here's a big word for you, the eschatological perspective or motif here, which means, how does this help us understand what's to come? This is not eschatology. This is not giving us a doctrine of the last things, but there is application for eschatology. And that is this: when you go to 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, when you go to Romans and 1 Corinthians, when you go to Revelation, where the apostles begin to talk about, or even Matthew 24 and 25, where Jesus and the apostles begin to talk about the latter days. And it's going to come like a thief in the night, not like the Left Behind series, where all of a sudden people are not wearing any more clothes. No, that's weird. No, what it's going to be like is like what Daniel experienced when he was in Babylon. You don't want to be the one taken away, because that's not a good thing. You're being arrested, so you do want to be left behind when people come to take you away, because those that are getting taken away are going to hell. But here, what we learn is there is an end in sight. There is a moment where God's patience will be up, and his son will return, and he will bring judgment upon the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only coming back once.
Right.
And it's over. So the writing is on the wall, and it's called the Scriptures.
Yeah.
Now, just like Jesus says, there's going to be many that are come to you, Lord, didn't we do this? Didn't we do this in your name? Didn't we do that in your name?
I never knew you.
Depart from me, I never knew you. And then just like in Matthew 24, where you have finally the sheep and the goats are all gathered, and they are divided.
Yeah.
Sheep to one side, goats to the other.
Yeah.
And then their works are read. It's not, let's consider their works and determine whether they're sheep and goats. No. Right. It's already been determined who's a sheep and who's a goat. And then they're divided that way. And then they're read their works. And you find out these did these things for the kingdom. These fought against the kingdom. There's been plenty of time from a person's birth to a person's death, or from a person's birth to the time Christ returns, for them to turn to the gospel. Plenty. Mm-hmm. Every sermon has people look to Christ, to trust in Christ. Every message needs to be that way. And yet people still deny it, even though the writing's on the wall. Now, I said there's 2 things we can do. That's just one thing. I think the second thing is, how do we apply Daniel 5 and this reality of God's patience being up with unbelievers, how do we apply that to our day? How do we say, well, then how are we to live in light of this fact that God does say time's up? That God does say, well, let's bring it away from a national thing to a personal thing. A person has a doctor's visit and they find out they have terminal cancer. I don't know if you've had to deal with this as a pastor yet. In one of my first charges, I did. Guy was healthy, studying theology at a seminary, just kind of as a fun thing to do. And then all of a sudden he has acute leukemia. He has a little daughter and a wife. And, what do you do? They come, pastor, I show up. What do we do? And the thing to keep in mind when this kind of stuff happens, when the doctor is saying, hey, look, this is something that the writing's on the wall. This is a terminal illness. Now, we can prolong it. We can make it where you can live as long as possible with this. We can ease your pain and ease your discomfort. But you will more than likely die from this. Well, we obviously see, to me, preaching is not don't be like Belshazzar. That's horrible preaching. That's moralist. That's moralistic preaching. That's not why we have this passage.
It's very shallow.
It is very shallow.
Yeah.
5 ways to not be like Belshazzar. And yet Paul says everything that's given to us in the Old Testament is for us to learn and be guided and there's examples there of what not to do and what to do. Well, let's put it this way. What did Belshazzar fail to do? Daniel says
he didn't humble himself.
He did not humble himself. He did not recognize the sacred or the holy. And he refused to listen. It's too late. Now, I believe it's never too late for a person to hear the gospel and repent. I believe in deathbed conversions. I think you see it with the thief on the cross. I think it's a wonderful idea of the thief showing up in heaven and going, well, you're in. Yeah, I don't know how. This guy that was between me and one of my childhood friends said I'd be seeing him here soon. Who do you think that guy was? I mean, they were calling him the King of the Jews, but
yeah, I don't know. In his phrasing and the words that he used when he spoke to Jesus, he called him Lord. Yeah. There was something about that man that changed too. Because you'll notice in other gospels that both thieves were throwing things at Jesus, like throwing words at Jesus. And then one of them, something flipped. Yeah. A conviction was brought up within him. Yeah. And then go ahead.
Yeah. The point I'm making is that it's one of these things where it really, at the end of the day, doesn't take much. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's not a whole bunch of facts and historical data. It's one simple thing. Did Jesus say you are forgiven? Do you believe that? And so Belshazzar didn't humble himself, didn't listen to the word of God, and didn't recognize the holy. I think those are at least three things that we see here.
Add idolatry in there too.
Right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. I mean, and those are the things that. So not recognizing the holy, he's got that idolatry. He's worshiping, man-made images. He's suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. And the only question I have is, when people do that, what do you think is going to happen?
Right.
What do you think is going to happen when you push God? Do you really want him to push back? History doesn't bode well for those that get pushed back.
So I find it interesting that part of me doesn't want to think that God could lose patience. But you find in Scripture, he is slow to anger. He is full of mercy. He's the Father of compassion, the Father of mercy. But it also says that he is not slow to keep his promise.
Right. That's the point. I think so. We have to recognize we're using human language, anthropomorphic language. So nothing's changing when God says time's up.
Yeah.
He had that time set.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like all the alarms are going off. What was I supposed to do right now? Nope. He didn't hit the snooze button. That's it. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think that's the biggest point here is he promises to destroy a nation that doesn't abide by him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, oh man. I think he is, hang on, let me look it up. Because I used it the other day and I can't remember where the reference is. But I got my computer out right here. So that's a good resource to find. Slow to 2 Peter chapter 3. The day of the Lord will come is the title for that chapter in the ESV. So it's chapter 9. Chapter 3, verse 9. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, because we're using our own human limitations on being able to understand. But is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved in the earth, and the works that are done on it will be exposed. So what you were saying, all kind of like packed into two verses right here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is God's patient and slow, not wanting any of you to, fall, but to repent. He's talking to the church. He's not talking universal manhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not talking everyone, all people, in the sense that it's open to anybody. No, he's talking to those who are in the church. He wants to see the church saved. He wants to see his people saved. And that's in essence what Daniel's getting at. He looks at Belshazzar. He says, "Your dad knew better." Now, idols were still there.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to pride, came to humbling oneself, Nebuchadnezzar knew better.
I'm limited on the knowledge that I have of the history wrapped around that. Is it in Daniel that would show, or within any other books that would show the transition from Nebuchadnezzar to Belshazzar?
I'm sure there's a history about it. I don't know. I mean, Daniel has this chapter, and then he's got majority of Daniel 1 through 6 is the first few chapters are dealing with Nebuchadnezzar. This chapter is Belshazzar. Following this, when you've got one more chapter, and that's where you got like Daniel and Lion's Den and stuff like that. That's with Darius.
Yeah.
And then 7 through 12 is when Daniel's getting all those visions. The angels, held back because there was fighting.
Well, I kind of feel bad for Daniel because, I mean, the king said, you gave a promise that, hey, you'll be the third ruler. Isn't that what he says?
Well, think about it. It's what keeps him alive.
Oh, okay.
He essentially, God revealed his hand at just the right time in order for Daniel to stay alive.
Revealed his hand quite literally.
Right.
Yeah.
Pun intended, play on words. That's
good. That's a nice little idiom that you used for the idiom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he did that so that Daniel would look like a king, and those are the ones that were kept alive. What's cool, and I think this would be a great point to close on, is Isaiah said this day was coming. Isaiah, Habakkuk, all these other ones foretold the day that Cyrus would raise the Medes and the Persians up to the point where they would destroy Babylon. And Isaiah actually names Cyrus by name. And this is a couple hundred years before Cyrus is even born. And that's pretty cool, so when we sit back and say God had his plan, we're talking 200, more than 200 years, but it's given through Isaiah, it's given through Habakkuk that Cyrus is going to be the king who's going to unite the Medes and the Persians, and they will destroy Babylon.
Yeah, man.
And it's really cool
seeing it play out, like God playing the long play right there.
Mm-hmm.
That patience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we try our best to wrap our minds around him, but it's just not fully possible. And even people who think that they can, got a good grasp of God's patience or God's wrath or God's jealousy and try to describe it in ways that humans describe their own. No, I feel like you're just building up a false God in your own head when you do that sort of thing. And it's dangerous.
It's deadly.
Right. So you go from chapter 4 to chapter 5, and there's no transition between Nebuchadnezzar to Bel. No,
because it's not really that type of book.
Right.
It's not really, it's not biography. It's not, it is history.
But it's not biographical.
It's a narrative.
Yeah.
Like the Frederick Douglass, the narrative in the life of Frederick Douglass. No, that's a narrative where it only tells portions of his life. That's what this is. That's what Daniel truly is. And there's prophecy in it too. But Daniel really wasn't, at the end of the day, he wasn't like the prophets. Daniel was a wise man. He was a wise teacher. He was like Joseph. So Daniel's telling us, how should we live in a pagan land where we don't have a church, where we don't have a minister, where we don't have how should we live in a pagan land? Daniel is telling us this is how you do it. Here's how you can remain faithful when you are a minority, when you don't have what you're normally used to having in Jerusalem, Judah.
Right. Well, I can see where people kind of get the context of the way that the phrase is used now. Like if you were to look it up in the dictionary, it would say that it's like I wouldn't say like a premonition, but the feeling that something bad is about to happen. I get where they get that in Daniel chapter 5, but no, I get what you're saying though. Instead of it's final, but that's true. It's written. Every single day, every single minute, every single second of our lives is written. Before you're even born, it was written. And God knows it. He knows from beginning to end, he knows. And we may never comprehend that. But yeah, the important thing to take away is that the writing is on the wall. That's the scripture that we have before us.
Yeah. We may not know what the next hour has. We may not know what tomorrow has. We may not know, but what we do know is Christ is coming.
Yeah. And I was sitting down there for Thank you for listening, and we appreciate your support. If you would like to give in financial support to J.P. Mosley's ministries at Heidelberg Theological Seminary in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you may do so at heidelbergseminary.org/support-HTS. That is heidelbergseminary.org/support-HTS. And if you would like to give to the ministries of Tip Mosley at Fellowship Baptist Church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, you may do so at thefellowshipbc.org/give. That is thefellowshipbc.org/give. Thank you, and may God bless.